Hi everyone, we're welcoming back Marco Visconti, and we're going to talk through Hellier, the TV show that's doing so well on Amazon Prime and on YouTube, Planet Weird. There will be some spoilers in this, so if you've not seen the show, I suggest you stop listening, go and watch the show, and come back and listen to what Marco's got to say about the show from his viewpoint as an highly experienced ceremonial magician, an initiate of the OTO, the Choronzon Club, and Freemason. So, strap in, it's going to be a good one. We talk about the show itself, the magical significance of what happens in the show. If it's real, what's actually happening is really quite mind-blowing. We're talking about Ultraterrestrials, the UFOnauts, the secret cipher of the UFOnauts, how Thelema fits into this, fairies, jinn, whatever you want to call them, they're all in here. And finally getting to the actual grand reveal at the end of the series, the Star Sapphire. What does the ritual mean? What's the significance of the ritual? What happens in the ritual? Without further ado, on with the show. So, I binge watched season 2, watched season 1 last year. I mean, from my kind of photographic perspective, the thing that really struck me about kind of this particular sequence of films was really well shot.
Yeah,
that almost, it took me a while to get into it because most of the time I was going, this is really nicely shot. It's really well put together, which is refreshing because you can obviously, there's usually some absolutely terrible films, visually that they can really kind of push you away from the content. So really well produced, interesting in terms of how it was cut, how it was paced, and it just turned out to be something I wasn't expecting at all. Really the kind of the turns, the divergence in it were quite remarkable. You start with obviously the little goblin figures and what were they, and then through season 2, it just seems to kind of unfold. Particular interest to me from kind of my background would have been how it starts to get into fairy lore and how these things are connected. And kind of like one connection that I made after your recommendation of reading Alan Greenfeld's book, when they talk about kind of the Men in Black and that figure, and then he references some kind of angelic presence turning up to people in the book. It's like again an individual who's entirely like one was talking about the blackest person she's ever seen with these like striking blue eyes and what have you. And it really brought me back to a video I did over a year ago about the Dark Horseman, which is this character that turns up again in fairy lore in Ireland and in Britain as well, which is you meet this person in the Dark Night who's riding a horse and challenges you to a race, and if you win you'll get some sort of fantastic fairy bounty, but if you lose everything, your soul, everything to that. So your recommendation was brilliant. It really kind of unpacked the show for me in a different way, far more engaging way. And before I kind of hand it over to you to kind of, because I really want to get your insight, I mean, from your knowledge of Thelema and kind of understanding of the cipher, the history of it, which I struggled trying to get through that. I'm enumerate to begin with, so I'm actually mathematically illiterate. So I'm like, what? When I was editing the last video, it was a passage, and you just mentioned the book, and I looked down at my notes, and there was my notes written, the name of the book, literally as I opened it and looked at the phrase, and you said it on the audio. So the whole thing started with a magnificent synchronicity.
Synchronicity, yeah, exactly. Which is such a big theme, in the show Hellier.
Yeah.
All right, let's see where we can start. Well, first of all, synchronicity, right? Synchronicity is such a big deal in magic. Like magic, if you do the magic with the K, that tool of Thelema, that set of rituals, set of meditation, set of tools, again, that you can use in order to properly do your true will. Again, so that set of tools that will enable you to find, discover, and do your true will at best, which is the scope of magic, which is what magic is all about, really.
Mm-hmm.
Now, synchronicity is what happens when you, by virtue of doing your true will, you have the inertia of the universe. That's what Crowley mentioned. One of the way of what is your true will? When you have the inertia of the universe propelling you on your path, on the orbit of your own star. And I discovered Hellier through synchronicity as well.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, and the story went by that was in December, like, so a few months ago, a month ago actually, and I tend to watch a lot of TV. I have a subscription to everything, Netflix, Hulu, you name it, all of them. There was this promise that streaming TV will cut the cost. Now I spend more now than ever before,
True,
because now I have a beautiful 60-inch screen, and I can watch Ultra HD, and I was like, oh, I can watch this, I can watch that, so anyway. And even then, I'm not. I can be a little bit lazy, and I don't really go and look, because, as you know, there's so much on offer right now that you can get lost. So I discovered Hellier only through synchronicity, because somebody that actually attended one of my 6-week courses last year, the Thelema without tears courses I did at Treadwills, and a person that became a good friend, a good acquaintance, a good friend, I would say. She posted about it, and I was reading, and I know this seems interesting, since I like Blair Witch Project, which is a movie that I guess all of us remember. And for me, I remember watching it in the theater in Rome in 99, 98, whatever came out. And for me, it was like, wow, that was weird, but cool weird, I really like at the time, the found footage genre was new, and it was cool. So between giving this, reading this person commenting on it, and getting this Blair Witch Project vibes, and also then reading about Alan Greenfield, which is a person I know. I never met the man directly, but we're connected through one of our teachers, Michael Berthiaud. By the way, today is Michael Berthiaud's 85th birthday. Speaking about strange connections and things that happen. So, I've read his books over the year. He's another person that at some point, it was early 2000s, I don't remember exactly when, I think we mentioned last time, he left Ordo Templi Orientis as well, and he was one of the people that actually wrote a well-detailed expose of whatever happens in Ordo Templi Orientis Incorporated. And I remember reading at the time before I joined the ODM, and then when I left, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be doing something like Alan Greenfield did as well, because it's when you get out and you see what happens in the holes of buttons, and you realize all the incompetence goes there, like you want to talk about. But today we're not going to discuss.
Sure.
The synchronicity is that I watch it and I binge it, and as you said, I was like, first of all, very impressed with the photography. I like things that look good. So I was like, oh, this is, first season, it's okay. Second season, they really, pumped up the quality of the production. It's really beautiful. And, as you say, it all starts with this group of this duo of, a wife and husband of paranormal investigators. Like there's like dime a dozen around the world in the last 20 years, if you want. That go around and receive this very weird email about goblins in Kentucky. And they go there, and you realize, oh, they started. Look, there's the footage from 2012. There's the footage from 2015. But the funny bit is that I'm like into all of season 1, and I'm still thinking this is a found footage. I mean, this is why it makes so much sense, because they did a lot of they really went to look at what magic really is, and they really put together things that, I mean, I would consider obvious, but I also realized that maybe the layman that is only interested in aliens or in goblins or in fays might not see immediately. So I was like, that's also a bold move, trying to make a show like this. And so, me being me, I tweet to Greg Newkirk and I say, "Hey, amazing, well done on of the new series of Blair Witch Project." And I remember even him directly on Twitter, one of the people, because everybody now is very into Hellier, like, "Oh, but that's not a found footage." And I was like,
Mhm.
so that's for me when I was realized, oh, there is an actual synchronicity at work here. Because so if this is not a found footage, these people really have had this kind of experiences over the course of 7-8 years now. I mean, a long time.
Mhm.
There's something else there.
Mhm.
What really really got me into it is that not only they explain for the mainstream, if you wish, because again, another thing that eventually I came to realize is that they shot season one for their own YouTube channels. They were never thought to be syndicated on
Yeah.
Prime,
Yeah.
and of course that's the thing that actually propelled them
Yeah.
outside. But all the seasons are still for free on YouTube, so it's
Mhm.
not like I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. Also, at the same time, also thought. I mean, you as a videographer and photographer can tell me. Now, equipment has become must have become very cheap because they've done something very that
Yeah.
looks really really good.
Yeah. They,
And of
they,
course, I mean, you can see they invested a good amount of money. But
yeah.
I mean, the level of photography and cinematography. I mean, I would have been, I don't know, BBC level. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's for
It's
what I can.
proper filmmaker level, and sometimes they show some cutaways, and you can see like they're using like proper like gimbals and or not gimbal, but like weight proper balanced equipment for shooting video. Yeah, I mean it's really nicely done, really nicely done, well edited. So kudos to them.
Dude, I guess the guy that does all the filmmaking is Carl Pfeiffer, the guy with the
Yeah,
beard,
yeah,
the
yeah,
one that you don't really see much in season two because again, it's behind the camera, obviously.
yeah.
But anyway, what's interesting again is that when I realized this is not a found footage, this is not Blair Witch
Mm-hmm.
Project. That's when I really stopped and started thinking, what is there? What is happening?
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible that there is this ongoing transmission that, in fact, harkens back to John Keel and Mothman prophecies? And that's where the idea of the cipher
Mm-hmm.
uh, that and the idea of Alan Greenfield comes into play because um, most pretty much everything in the show is and the experience they're having, it's interesting even if the cipher does not exist,
Mm-hmm.
because these people, they did have these experiences. They did have this weird going to places and finding balloons that
Mm-hmm.
in fact make sense in the overall narrative. Now when you add the idea of this cipher, the things becomes even more interesting. Now, what is the secret cipher of the UFOnauts? Now we go back to Thelema, and we go back to the book that started Thelema, that is Liber al Velegis, the Book of the Law. I guess we already discussed how the book was received, but the book was a channeled
Yes.
reception. Crowley, prepared himself ritualistically, and that means you do things magically in order to let your consciousness be more in a receptive state to receive certain sort of messages from the beyond. And that's when Crowley received the Book of the Law, dictated by this entity called Ivas. Now Ivas, over the year, a lot of people discussed like maybe I was Crowley playing with himself, also because we have to say something right now. And it is also very true that Crowley could have also completely made up the reception story of the Book of the Law. A lot of things don't really add up with the dates. A lot of things uh, don't really add up with how he received it. But what's important to me is that if we enter the realm of myth and mythopoeia, myth creation, which is
Yeah.
the source of magic for me,
Mhm.
uh, it is important only to a certain degree if the story really went down the way Crowley described it or not.
Mhm.
What happened is that he described a story, and this received message reverberates over the years and makes sense with a lot of other
Yeah.
messages that other people have received. And this is, again, now we move on and we go to Greenfield and his book Secret Cipher of the UFOnauts, which is so tied both to, you know, the John Keel Mothman prophecies, Ingrid Cold character, whatever that is. So let's say the aliens, let's call them like this.
Yeah.
It's also tied to, again, Hellier, Greg and Dana Newkirk, and the goblins, the Fae.
Mm-hmm.
Why the cipher is important? So first of all, what is the cipher? In the Book of the Law, there is a lot of passages that make sense immediately, lots of passages that make no sense unless you study in a Thelemic context.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's some passages that are really absolutely baffling. That is almost like a hint of a cipher.
Right.
Especially what's called like the riddle of Liberal. There is a string of numbers and letters, and the voice of the Book of the Law at that point tells the scribe, that is Crowley, whatever this, I'm gonna not quote verbatim, but it says something like, don't worry too much about these numbers. These numbers, you will not make sense. Someone else will come after you, and they will make sense of this. Now, a lot of hardcore Thelemites have been trying to solve the riddle of Liber Alba Legis forever, because there are people that believe that if they do, they'll be the new incarnation of Crowley. Some people that think that they will really unlock the potential of the Eon of the Child, the Eon of Horus, and so they will usher in almost a new golden age. There is, maybe I can send the link and we can put it in the description. There's somebody who compiled something almost like 26 solutions of the riddle.
Yeah.
And they all make a lot of sense in very different ways, to the point that my understanding of it is the riddle itself it's not important solving it. It's important, trying to solve it, because that by doing that you engage with the current and you engage with magic itself.
Yeah.
Because it could well be, as Alan Greenfield outright states both in the book and in Hellier, that it could be a way to make sense of all the communications we get from beyond. And when I say beyond, we can wrap around our head around this concept as other planes of existence, other worlds, other planets. I won't say it doesn't really matter, because it's almost like our language is not able to really convey these messages. It is something like Robert Anton Wilson says again, even William Burroughs says again and again, and Brian Jazine saying again, language is limited. And since we create our word based on the way we can discuss, we can talk about it. Of course. So if we speak about I say the beyond, it could be another planet, and then if it's another planet, the message comes from aliens. But if it's another plane of existence, then it could come from fairies. Or if it's another entirely different, it could be that idea of those secret chiefs that are in the AA system. The third order, which is also referenced in Hellier, is it's the realm, is the invisible college of the secret chiefs. And back in the 1800s, the Theosophists thought that the secret chiefs were living in the cities under the world, Agartha and Shambhala. And then again, you see another way you can go around it, because in Hellier they speak of the goblins coming from under the world. So, for me, and I guess everybody who wants to try and make sense of this mystery, if you want, the beyond is that place that is not this place. It's not important if it's another planet. It's not important if it's the hollow earth under the world, it's not important. It's another plane of existence, multiverse, earth, whatever it is. It's the place that it's not this place. And in that place, there come all the initiatory messages and all the initiatory formulas that will allow us to get there. if we apply them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, I'm going, as usual, I'm rambling, but back to the cipher for the third time. The way they describe the cipher in the show and in the book, it is a solution of the riddle of Liber Al, because by applying in a very clever way, and this was done in the 70s already, so
Yeah.
it was solved relatively like almost like 50 years ago now. Think about it, 49. It's interesting, actually 49, and it's interesting 49 because by another kind of cipher that is Kabbalistic Gematria, 549 is the number of Babylon. So
Yeah.
anyway, interesting. That's okay. Now, by solving the riddle of Liber Al, they came up with a new Kabbalah, and they came up with a new way. Okay, first of all, for our listeners, now Kabbalah is Jewish mysticism. But when I speak of Kabbalah and when magician speaks of Kabbalah, we speak of mystical Kabbalah. And that is, in these days terms, maybe could be understood as straight up cultural appropriation of Jewish mysticism in order to fit let's say the layouts of ceremonial magic as it was being put together in the 1800s by the Theosophical Society, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and eventually Crowley, and then from them down to chaos magic and down. Now Kabbalah has a lot of applications practically. You have the Tree of Life, which is I call it a map of reality. We have, and that is pretty much a Kabbalistic way of perceiving the universe. And when I say the universe, is the here, not the beyond. Okay, the beyond is beyond that glyph.
Yeah.
Okay. Another application of Kabbalah is something called Gematria, and that is that for every letter of the alphabet, you have every letter is assigned a number. This number is assigned. It is assigned like there's no logic. It's been received. Okay? And this is true again in Hebrew, because in Hebrew each letter is also a number. So you have Aleph is 1, Bet is 2, and then you get to etc. Various different numbers. Now each word has a number that is made up by the sum of the singular letters. And by this gematric exercise, you can define the various numbers of each word. This is important because words that might seem very not close to each other at all, but they have the same value, they're somehow connected magically and mystically. So it is for the person that engage with these ciphers to try and make sense. Now, this is precisely what Greenfield states in his book. That is, there has been constant messaging from the beyond. These messages have been received by the vast majority of people that, through their own cultural lenses, understood these messages differently. Some saw aliens, some saw fairies, some saw goblins. But what Greenfield states in the book is that if you apply the New Eon English Kabbalah cipher, and it is a specific Kabbalah for to determine the numbers of each word connected to these experiences, you can see a link. You can see what the overall message is.
Right.
And again, I've been working with Kabbalah a lot. That's something that I guess if you're in a Thelemic mindset, you will work with Kabbalah a lot. And this was, looking at Hellier, I was shocked because I haven't had a proper answer from Greg Newkirk yet. I emailed him and I'm waiting for a reply. And I straight up told him, if you guys made this up over 7 years, I don't care because you did your homework.
But
now, if you haven't
me when I read it, I was like, even if they made it up, they've done brilliantly.
They've done brilliant. Like I say, if you made it up, me as a magician of like 30 years, I always wanted this, and this is now, and I'm okay with that. But I haven't had a reply yet. But if not, these guys are seriously onto something. Like,
Yeah.
especially when you see season 2, how things happen, they go to places and they get stuff that if you apply the cipher,
Mm-hmm.
and again, let me reiterate it again. This cipher, most people could say, oh, but it's something that Greenfield and his associate made up in order to have a claim to have, unlocked the secret of Thelema in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it is true that people that tend to claim to have solved the cipher tend to be very snotty about it. Oh, I did it.
Yeah.
I never saw Greenfield doing it, but it is definitely true that in his books and in the way he came through in Hellier, he says, well, of course this makes sense because this is the cipher. I want to say again for the people listening to us right now, there are, that I know, at least 25 other possible solutions to that. And I argue that if you use those solutions, maybe Hellier will not make all the sense that makes now,
Yeah.
but there will be maybe another show down the line that will make sense because they will have used another cipher instead of Greenfield's one. For many people, many skeptics, this is where almost the suspension of disbelief falls, because like, well, come on, I can get around the idea that there is like a code to the universe, but if you're telling me that might not be the case, then people just made things up. And I realized that for the scientific mindset, it's difficult to wrap your head around that there could be one reality and one solution could be true, and then many others could be true. And I'm not even going to say the buzzword that has been popping in and out esoteric for the last 20 years, that is quantum something, because I'm not a physicist.
Yeah.
I have a very, very basic understanding of what quantum physics mean, but in many ways, people that face this problem were like, oh, but actually, quantum physics tell us that there's a minor. I much more prefer the approach of Ramsay Dukes, that in his beautiful book SOTBME, which means sex secret of the black magicians exposed, which doesn't. It's nothing about that. It's just like a trolling title. He tries to he puts forward the idea, which I made mine, that humanity has fundamentally 4 ways to decode the human experience. One is science, one is religion, one is art, and one is magic. The 4 go parallel. Like you can see, but try and fall into the trap of let's explain magic by science, which is also not what Crowley wanted to do.
Yeah.
Because when we go back to the concept of scientific illuminism in Crowley, it wasn't so much that he straight up said, through Thelema, you can explain scientific magic by science. What he was actually saying is that magic should apply the method of science. That is, try to be rigorous, try to set up, tests, try to set up, proper experiments, and then maybe hand it over to someone else at your level, one of your peers, and see if that person gets to the same conclusion. It is also true that Crowley, being Crowley, he was also, not outwardly stating this, but always trying to, if people read this, and because that was the motto of the Equinox, which was his publication arm for the AA, and the motto was the method of science, the aim of religion. And of course, this did bring, even back then, a lot of people was like, oh, this is a scientific way of understanding magic. Crowley never completely disregard that, because of course he was bringing some people to him. But again, then we had people in the community that over the years really almost hell-bent on trying to make magic scientific. Magic is not scientific. I say something and people at the courses from time to time, they go, what did he just say that? And that is that I don't think magic will ever be explained by science. The moment magic is explained by science, It is more like we found something that can be explained by science, but it's not magic.
Mm.
Maybe it's the same way that I don't think that we can explain art by science. Why does art do what it does to us? I don't think that we can explain like real religious experiences, like transcendental states of religious mysticism and devotion through science.
Yeah.
And vice versa. You cannot explain, you know, how a theorem works by magic.
Mm.
Again, Crowley was trying to go as close as he could because he knew that it was a way to modernize a set of rituals, a set of practices, but the two things are different.
Yeah.
And I've been talking for an half an hour, so if you, I'm going to pass it back to you for a second.
Well, I think I mean, your point there about the science and magic is it's really interesting, and like part of the kind of my own kind of romantic interest in like the kind of the romance of magic and mystery is like I don't want science to figure it out, in a slightly childish way, but you know what I mean.
No, I don't think it's childish at all.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'll tell you something. Or maybe it's exactly childish, but the eon of the child, right? Like that is magic. The wonder, seeing the wonder, and not trying to encapsulate the wonder.
Yeah.
Because the wonder cannot be encapsulated. The moment you do, it becomes gray, it becomes dull, it becomes something unmagical. So
Yes. Yeah. And, well, a word you used earlier really kind of resonated for me, which was you mentioned kind of like, the current. When you step into the current of the energy, the whatever the broadcast, whatever it is, that you become more receptive to it.
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing because I've been asked questions before about kind of about people saying, well, I don't believe in any of this stuff. How is it? It's only the people who believe in it that experience it. And it's like, well, it's the current. It's like, you believe in it, you're not necessarily believe in it, but you're susceptible to it. You start to believe in it. You're there. You're in that space.
if you open yourself to channels,
Yeah.
you and I mean, you will become more susceptible to them, to those kind of communications. Since I became a little bit obsessed when I liked something, I've been following Hellier on social media everywhere, not stalking but just reading, and I mean you can see how many people have been engaging with this. That by all means, it's not easy. It's not an easy concept to wrap your head around. That again, you have aliens, and then you end up to the god Pan, and then Pan actually is something different. And again, this is actually quite advanced Thelemic concept. Pan, the god Pan is a very central character in Thelema, but it is usually very difficult for people to wrap their head around the concept of both the sexual satire that comes from Greek mythology, but then again, even for the Greeks, pan is a Greek word, means everything, the all. So the entirety of potential of experience that in Thelema represents both Nuit and Hadith, because pan becomes, let's say, again, it's about the potential of possibilities, that is Hadith, and the potential the infinite manifest, that is Nuit.
Yeah.
In fact, when in Thelema, when you get to the final big initiation, that is the crossing of the abyss, the becoming a master, you become a master under the Night of Pan. The Night of Pan is the cipher number is 210, which is the formulas of Nox, which are very advanced magical formula in Thelema. Also, at Nox, and maybe we can put a graphic now, can be written in a way that becomes the mark of the beast of Crowley. So all this, Pan is everywhere in Thelema. But Pan is also the libidinous satire that is also very present in a lot of orgiastic and ecstatic religions. And so for me, I was thinking, oh, they're doing this. They're like Hellier is for me. It's like no holds barred. They went full into it, and
Yeah.
again, if they did it as I almost hope they did, so it's
Yeah.
not a well thought out over several years, like,
Yeah.
but they really, these guys are having groundbreaking experience themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, the way, if you follow them online, the way they speak about it, they seem very, very honest about it.
Yeah.
So whenever, Greenfield tells them, you've been doing an initiation, yes, they have. They've been doing initiation into the Thelema. They've been initiated into almost like the entire spectrum of Thelemic
Yeah.
experience. And again, another thing that Greenfield says, this is also a ritual for the war. Like, you are sending a message out.
Yeah.
And I do believe so. Because
Yeah.
again, when you see all the people engaging, all the people, like I say, no, I mean, I'm not trying. I don't know if I actually come across how I'm into this, because I don't know. 2 years ago, this would have been impossible.
Well, well, that's the thing for me with this, is that when we talk about kind of like the broadcast, and this is literally the broadcast. This is the broadcast made material and put into a narrative that people can actually decipher. Where loads of complex ideas, so many layers in there, and it's just unpacking these in a narrative form, like that is just, it's able to reach the masses.
Absolutely.
It's and that was the thing again when I was watching season 2, where kind of getting getting into Pan, and where I'm just like, Jesus, like,
Exactly.
this is they're really going for it in this. This is a remarkable
Something that I again, let's work with the idea that these guys are doing it for real. Like, it's not something. And again, let me state it once more. If it's something that's scripted, it's still amazing, because they went for the best. But let's assume that they're doing it for real. These guys they're bold, to try those experiments like that. I mean, lots of the things they do not engage with, opening a circle. Oh man, at the end of season 2, there is a more classical, let's say, magical ritual. Very, very, very simple. So I was looking at it, it's like, oh, they're adorable. But whatever they do with all the other more contactee level of equipment, that is the same thing Crowley would do with Victor Neuberg in the desert of Busada to receive the vision and the voice. I mean, they were engaging with more high sex magic but what they were doing, in fact, they were using sex in order to raise themselves to different levels of perception. And then they were there in a very hostile environment, because in the middle of the desert in the 1909, what was that? 1907, something like that. And they were receiving this message, and these guys are doing the same. I mean, the way they raise their consciousness is different, and maybe for the untrained eye, we'll say, "Oh, that's not magic." Oh, no, that's exactly what magic is. I did engage with some of those techniques. Having being blindfolded, so trying to be away from normal senses, and being blasted with static, and trying to get words. I don't want to say you can get mad, because we're not at the level, but you can get you can get what is called obsession. You can get because you do get some entrance, some communication, and the spirits. It's not. I don't believe they're like evil spirits. I believe that when you engage with the spirits always engage with you because they have a message. My experience tells me that these spirits want to communicate. Now, the problem is that some people are not ready for the messages, and that's where the idea of evil spirits come from, because the message is perceived as something aggressive. The biggest case, I would say, is Lovecraft. A man that clearly was having a wild dreamscape communication, and because of his upbringing, it could only make sense by describing as a monstrous, alien. Which the monstrous section of it is true, because a monster comes from Latin monstrum, to mean a prodigy. So yeah, it's something that's beyond humanity, and that's why you want to engage with these things with a modicum or a level of preparation. So again, working with the idea that Hellier is not scripted, this guy's got bolts.
I mean, like they've gone in without any armor,
No, at all. And you can see that one of them, like Connor, like interesting again. I don't want to judge, but it's the guy that states that comes from a straight up Christian background. Is the one actually more taken from time to time, because again, our backgrounds do inform the way we make sense of something that's beyond. And Christianity, the way has been taught to people in the last maybe 1,000 years, it's more about there's only one truth and there's only one good. Everything else is bad. You can see that this guy in particular, Connor, was like, oh, I'm a bit taken aback. While interesting enough, Dana, the one that actually has the hedge witch background, she's the one a bit like, yeah, let's tread carefully here, but let's do it. So I mean, again, anthropologically, this is like, oh, see, that's religion at work, pretty much.
Yeah, totally. It's remarkable, isn't it? How it frames things like one of the things that's interesting in fairy lore is it always gets twisted into some like Catholic message. You read back to the stories, like the stuff that was all logged by or aggregated by Lady Wilde. Oscar Wilde's mum basically catalogued all this amazing folklore.
I didn't know that there was Oscar Wilde's mum. That's amazing.
Yeah. They're a talented family, and they pulled it all together. She pulled it all together, and the themes keep coming again. And you've got like the priest has to go to give someone the last rites, and it kind of in rural Ireland at the time, no electricity, it's just like pitch black. They've got to get to the person to give them the last rites before the devil knows the person's dying, and it's the Black Rider who meets the priest on the road to try and make him late, to try and take him in another direction, try and give him the steer, and the usual thing. You get a riddle to solve, and if you can't get the riddle, you kind of lose the soul, or there's a punitive thing. And so it's like the riddle. It's another side. There, it's the same themes in there again.
The themes are common because, again, for me, it's always the same communication. I mean, not in particular, but it's almost the same source from the beyond that tries to communicate, and it depends from. It's interesting, again, you described in fairy lore, but I'm thinking of a lot of histories, folklores from Italy as well, that back then these messages would happen always on stressful moments, right? Yeah. So when your normal consciousness moves from the normal state, and that's when there's the entrance of the outside, and of course through your own cultural lenses, you see this maybe as aggressive because. There's definitely a lot of themes that repeat themselves. Like again, like the black man, which is like in Recalled, right? And it's also the black man of the Sabbath. The teacher of the Sabbath, of the witches circle that would come from somewhere else and teach the witches. What is the black man? Well, Nuit, whatever is beyond the abyss, is the black, is the night of Pan. So in Thelema, you can actually pinpoint these references and try to maybe have an idea of what this is. In Greenfield book, he outright states, the black man, the man in black of UFO lore, They are like these secret chiefs, the people that come from from across the abyss.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, some will see them as positive, or Woodbridge with Woodruff. What's it called? Woodruff something. I mean the and Intercold guy with Intercold, and some would see them as invasive and disruptive.
Mm-hmm.
There is this something that is mentioned in Hellier, and then it's also mentioned in Greenfield, and Greenfield himself got it from Kenneth Grant, and the idea of trying to make a little sense of this very outlandish cosmology, and it is okay. Maybe there are a set of intelligences that are positive to mankind, and a set of intelligences they're trying to be disruptive to mankind. The idea of the positive one come from Sirius, Sothis. Kenneth Grant mythology is based heavily on this, and this really left a lot of influence around. I would say that he left. I mean, he himself, Grant, was working in the 50s and 60s, right when the first UFOs experiences happened, when Mothman prophecies were being written, and then things happened. So I would say Grant was living that milieu. Then he would go on and inspire everybody else, like from Greenfield and the other people that wrote of him. I don't know where I precisely stand. My experience with ultraterrestrials, to use the term in the book, has always been one of I never perceived them as positive nor negative. It's always been like, okay, we meet here, and you want something from me, I want something from you. Let's make the exchange. Which, again, to now draw yet another parallel, this is what happens in African diaspora religions. So, voodoo, hoodoo, Santeria, Candomblé. With the laws and the orishas, they're not gods.
Mm-hmm.
They're not angels. They're understood as heroes of mythical past. They ascended beyond humanity, and now since they're not gods, because there's only one god, an Atman-like figure, but those are intermediate, and they have more power. So you engage with them in order to get something from them, and they get something from you. Yeah. And it's not like Baron Samedi is evil because he is the law of the dead. He will ask you for a lot, but he can actually give you a lot of powers back, and that's always been my experience, my personal experience with. Again, I like the term ultra-terrestrials a lot. Yeah, I also understand that to try and create like a taxonomy of creatures, like the good ones from Sirius Sothis, and the other ones, it is appealing to our minds, to our human minds, and we need to always put things in boxes, because again, that's the way we perceive the world. Sure. We discussed in the previous chat we had to discuss about this world is a world based on polarity and duality. So of course the idea of put everything in boxes, we know where we stand with them. Yeah. And it's also true that when you look at the Greenfield book, and he really expertly weave the Sothis mystery throughout the history of mankind, from Sumerians to Freemasonry, and that is that's not something that a Freemason, apart from me, will ever tell you. But it is true that the two Johns of Masonry might as well encode a much older message there. That for me it's easier to makes sense to go, instead of the Masonic message starting with the Hebrews and the building of Solomon Temple, maybe going back to the Egyptians and the building of their temples. But then from that to go, instead of that, see the Johannes, which is also a word that could have been eventually translated into John. Because Johannes and John, the roots are there. So it is possible. Of course, there is no scientific evidence of this, nor there ever will be. Yeah, it's more about for people that want to engage with these mysteries, you decide the level of myth you want to go through. Yeah, and all levels are good. It's just that if you go up to the side that there are good and evil ultra-terrestrials, I would say you open yourself up to the opportunity of meeting the evil ones, and then the man in black will not be like the the bringer of knowledge, but will be the one that chases you down because it doesn't want you to have the knowledge.
Yeah.
For me, it's nice to have options.
Going back to your your quantum reference.
Mm-hmm.
It's that extrapolation of the relationship between the observer and the observed.
Yeah, exactly.
You look from
you're saying that. I didn't say that, but yes. I guess you discover right now how easy it is to flirt with these ideas. Because that's another reality. It's how do you engage with a phenomenon? You engage with it the moment you look at it. But before you look at it, it can be anything you want, really. Unless it's something. Let's not derail, because if not, we're gonna go places. Yeah. There's one more thing that actually is interesting to look at, and at the end of Hellier, Hellier season 2, they kind of stop on almost like a cliffhanger, and I really do hope they're gonna do season 3. I don't know, maybe we can, if they're listening to us now, we can actually offer our chats to that.
Yes, absolutely.
Because you notice that they found this reference to the Star Sapphire.
Yeah.
Now that for me was a moment when I was like, oh, because the Star Sapphire is Liber 36, is originally a chapter in Crowley's Book of Lies, which is one of the most important texts in Thelema. Very mystical. It's a collection of prose and poetry and other weird elucubrations on many subjects. It's definitely, if I were to give like a series of books you should read in Thelema, of course, the Book of the Law. Then I always suggest The Vision and the Voice, and then the Book of Lies. And all three are the three most difficult to engage with. Like definitely not for the beginner, but also for the beginner, because if you read them and you say, okay, I didn't understand a single word of any of this, but I'm interested, then maybe you can go back to other things, Because that's kind of...
It's interesting you mentioned that as well, is that because the Book of Lies was given to me 20 years ago by someone who basically said, I can't understand this, you might. But she was wrong. I got tiny bits of it, but I used the John of Dreams line.
Oh wow!
Actually, as the quote for my thesis in university, my photographic.
That's one of the best chapters as well, by the way. So, it's especially interesting because I would say that if mainstream knows anything about Ordo Templi Orientis, it's because of the Book of Lies. And let me explain further. Story goes that Crowley in 1912, he was already a member of OTO by virtue of being 33rd degree Freemason of a clandestine rite, Memphis Mizraim, that Egyptian rite that Grimshaw mentions. And then he received in London a visit by Theodore Royce, which was the Grand Master of Ordo Templi Orientis. Now, you got to understand that at this point, Ordo Templi Orientis does not exist. I mean, it exists on papers. It was Theodore Royce's idea of mixing Egyptian Freemasonry with whatever he was understanding of Hatha Yoga at the time, and maybe some sexomagical tantrika that was was slowly starting to filter from these. But it was on paper. It didn't really exist. But again, the story goes that he shows up at Crowley's door and basically accuses him of publishing the highest secret of the OTO.
Right.
And Crowley was like, what are you talking about? And Royce presents him with the Book of Lies, chapter 36, the Star Sapphire. And Crowley reads, it's like, what are you talking? It's about sex. It's about sex. Because the Star Sapphire is a ritual, is a hexagram ritual. Now, the difference between the pentagram rituals and the hexagram rituals, that in the pentagram rituals are usually used for banishing, centering. Basically, the pentagram is about the manifested man. For man, I mean mankind. You know, the magician that has worked to balance the elements and opened a way to the fifth element, to quintessence, that is like the knowledge and conversation with the holy guardian angel. Now, hexagram rituals are rituals that traditionally were connected to planetary magic as opposed to elemental magic. In Thelema, they become straight up a way of working to connect with God, the godhood.
Okay.
And Crowley does this, I understand this through sex magic, you know. So the Star Sapphire is, if you read it, and again, maybe we can put it on screen. If you read it, it seems like, okay, there's somebody in a room that goes into the quarters and draws hexagrams and says words, and that's it. At the same time, the ritual itself starts in a very peculiar way, and that says, let the adept be provided with his magic wand and be armed with his magic wand and provided with his mystic rose. Now, Crowley never wrote, the way Crowley wrote rituals was almost a cipher unto itself. So let the adept means somebody who has mastered the knowledge and conversation with the Holy Guardian Angel. So somebody that's already at the Tiferet solar consciousness level. So not a neophyte at all. So the Crowley from the very beginning said, this is not for beginners.
Yeah.
You must have done all that work before. And then when he says, let be armed with his magic wand and provided with a mystic rose. Now, the wand is a phallic reference, and the rose is obviously the vagina. Sorry for being blunt there. So yeah, and then you understand that what the rituals say is that basically gives you a hint, if you can decode it, of creating a battery of energy by raising to orgasm climax in each quarter.
Okay.
By engaging with different kind of sexual interactions.
Yeah.
And then go back into the center and release all that energy. And then it says various things like Set will appear in the center. Yeah, so now there's almost no actual commentary on the Star Sapphire, because it is true that tells you what you learn at the highest level of OTO, like the secret of the 9 degree of OTO, sexual, magical, and internal alchemy, is what also is called the sleep of Siloam. That is the ability of engaging with sexual acts, ritualistic sexual acts, again and again and again, to raise more and more energy, in order that when you then engage with the last one, you have almost created like an immense battery into yourself and your partner that you can actually do. The idea is that you can actually manifest your will onto the world. There's this book over here, and maybe we can actually put it.
Okay.
This is a privately published book in 2009 called Ararita, Elaborations on the Star Sapphire by a Traveler in Darkness. This book was conceived and written over 9 months, from the winter solstice 2008 to August 2009. It forms an entire personal inquiry into a singular ritual and makes no claim of conveying or revealing secrets held by initiating or magical organizations. Treat with caution. Now, that disclaimer was done because the person that wrote this book at the time was member of Ordo Templi Orientis.
Yeah.
He wouldn't stay long. I never met this person directly, but I have it on good authority. He wouldn't stay long, but he was he got it.
Yeah.
So this book tells you exactly what the Star Sapphire is.
Right.
how you use it.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, when you look at the ritual per se, it says that you have to go into the various quarters,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, in the first quarter you say something like pater et mater unus deus ararita, that is father and mother, one god, ararita. Now
Yeah.
ararita is just put it here. Ararita is anotaricon, and that is another way you can actually engage with Kabbalah.
Yeah.
For the Hebrew.
So we left off at Star
We left off
Sapphire.
at Arita, I suppose. So I was saying that the book, it's called Arita, and Arita is also this word that you find again and again in Star Sapphire. And in fact, I was about to say that Arita is a notaricon, and a notaricon is another application, practical application of Kabbalah. That is, from time to time, you can have a phrase, and you can reduce the phrase to a word, taking the first letter of each word that makes the phrase. So in the case of Arita, it comes from Akad Rosh, Akdot Rosh, Hikudot Emuratu Akad, which means, more or less, one is its beginning, one is individuality, and its permutation is one. This idea is that that union we were discussing, the union with the Godhead that you manifest through the hexagram rituals, are synthesized into this word. And now synthesized words, especially when derived from Notaricon or Kabbalist or Gematric interpolations, in magic, this is what we call magical formula.
Right.
That is, trying to synthesize as much as possible into one word or maybe 2 or 3 words in order to create to stimulate your subconscious, if you're trained, to know, okay, this is what we're doing. Now, how does all the sex magic talk and of the Star Sapphire, which again is such an important and pivotal ritual in Thelema because of the connection with Ordo Templi Orientis, and how it then became such a mainstream idea, with Hellier? Well, as we know from season 2, they just received this Cipher message that everything is the Star Sapphire, and they don't go further than that. But for me, it was like, oh wow, that's very interesting. So, getting to Secret Cipher, the complete Secret Cipher of the UFOnauts, which the book I guess you have, this one, the one that I eventually got as well. Basically, this book came out. Let me see if I can actually find it. When came out, actually, copyright 2016, 2018. So it was, I guess, Greenfield put it up. The original Secret Cipher of the UFOnauts, with the other book he made was The Secret Rituals of the Men in Black. And in this book, at the end, there is a second interview with Terry Wrist.
Yeah.
Now, this is not the interview that they Appendix 4. Terry Wrist on the Ultraterrestrial in page 164 of the complete Secret Cipher.
Yeah.
Now, this interview is not the interview they refer in Hellier, and I always keep assuming that these guys are doing it for real. It's not scripted. I don't know if they're even aware of it now.
Yeah.
They might. Now, what Terry Wrist says is very interesting in the interview is that let me see if I can actually quote it because it's interesting. So I will read it. Okay, let me just try. So let's say this is Greenfield. And say, speaking about the fact that Wrist is talking about magical rituals to create batteries of sexual energy, the idea of the orgone and William Reich. And Greenfield says, well, that's strange, but I hardly knew. Reich himself say that he did that in the 50s, and Wrist, whoever this Wrist character is, let's see. Terry Wrist said, "Oh, that's right, but consider what Reich worked with. He called it orgone energy, and he goes on to explain what it is. It seems to me it is identical to the love under will current of Aleister Crowley and Greenfield. Wait a minute. Are you telling me that the energy behind the human libido destroys ultra-terrestrial craft? And wrist. They drink our fear like hungry ghosts. To drink instead our love is death unto them and their king. So what is implied here is that a way to there we go. So you were working. You got interested in that as well.
Yeah.
Is this synchronicity? Is this the formula at work? We don't know. For me, knowing that yes, the Star Sapphire and the 9-degree OTO, they're ways of raising sexual energy. That is what Reich called orgone theory.
Yeah.
And use that energy to use in the 9th degree of OTO. You do it. You use it to empower sigils, empower talismans.
Mm-hmm.
Behind this, there's also the idea of using it to actually impregnate like an egg and create the idea of the moon child, the incarnated god, almost like this god man hybrid that you bring down. Now, what is interesting is that since they are going, both the Hellier guys and of course Greenfield, they're going with the hypothesis that there is good ultra-terrestrial and bad ultra-terrestrial. What we say is that the way to disrupt the evil ones is by bombarding them with sexo-magical rituals with orgone energy. And now is that if you have these bits of information and you go and rewatch Hellier, you get the key. Because if these guys have really been receiving all these messages across 8 years and going back even before that, to the Ingrid cold cases and John Keel, etc. The message is, we have gave you the tech to shield and protect yourself from the invasion of a malevolent force. That is the secret of the 9-degree OTO. That is the secret of Tantra. That is the secret of sex magic. You have to use it in order to basically protect yourself from the bad communications and only receive the good ones. Now, remember when before we say that how did Crowley receive the vision and the voice, which is his biggest, let's use a term that is going to be a bit controversial, but let's say that was like Crowley's in his contactee phase. Also, we discussed in the previous podcast we did together. We discussed, the Amalantra working, the Abudis working. He was always engaging with sex magic in order to raise the energy to establish the link, but also under this other light, maybe to shield himself from the negative influences,
right?
And only tune onto the Sotis star, the Sirius star, and those kind of ultra-terrestrials. Now, I am curious to see, let's say that the New Kirks and the rest of the gang goes this way. Are they going to do like a sex magical ritual online, like on camera? That'd be interesting to see. Especially because the problem is that sex magic is considered. It's something that you usually, once upon a time, you would not discuss. You would veil into allegory and symbology. In this day and age, everything is different, of course. But as somebody that actually have practiced it for the last 20-odd years of my life, and at first I was absolutely not, I should have not done it. And it is something that you do work with energies that can slip off your hand. The story of Parsons exploding by dropping a file of mercury or whatever that is, fulminate of something. Or was he killed by the Mossad? Was he killed by the CIA? Or was he actually attracting that kind of negative energy, for the lack of a better term, because he was working with very advanced sex magical operations that maybe he wasn't very ready for. So in many ways, the way you unpack Hellier is, again, working on the premises that they're doing it for real, is that they receive the message. You got to learn, you got to train yourself and to perfect this communication, you got to train yourself to a very high level of adepthood, in fact, in order to fully use the Star Sapphire the way it is supposed to be used. The Star Sapphire implies five different sex magical operations, 4 in the corners without climaxing, and the final one in the center with climax. So first of all, you must be somebody who's able to have a control of your body in order to engage with your libido to that level of love and attraction, and being able to stop yourself at one point and go back to the beginning, stop and then restart again. So because in the various, and again, the book that I showed you before, the Ararita book by A Wonder in Darkness, shows very well, like, unpacks the rituals, because it says when you go into the quarters and you start, pater et mater. What is pater et mater? Is this kind of interaction. It's more like, I say, maybe heavy petting. Then but at the same time, you must be able to use it in order to raise libido. And then you need to bring it down and go into the second quarter, where it says mater et filius, and this is this kind of interaction, cephalatio.
Right.
So, and then there's a cunnilingus, and then there's a full heterosexual. This is not. When I say this is not for the faint of heart, not because this is like strange kinky sex, but I don't know. As a middle-aged man now, I realize that to keep that energy flowing, you must train yourself, because when you're 20, you have all the testosterone of the world, but then again, you have no control over it. So, because always remember that sex magic is not about just manifesting this energy in the body. It's also having a clear visualization of whatever the operation wants to be. Maybe the use of mantras at the same time. Maybe doing this in a moment where you have you're surrounded by interesting sounds or smells. So sex magic is not just fucking. It's in many ways, and you studied tantra, so you know that the tantrica is not just having sex. But that is the level of engagement. So again, to unpack the Hellier mystery as we have so far, they receive this communication. You gotta use the Star Sapphire in order in order almost to get to us. That is a very, very, very advanced ritual. So I'm definitely curious to see what's gonna happen with them, because
they I'm sure they won't be shooting that one. That will be
it would be interesting to see, especially because I don't see. I mean, I don't see any of them to be able to be comfortable with it. I might be wrong, When I saw the ritual they do in the cave, which is a very, very, it's very well done. There's all the bits are right, doing a banishing first, and a raising of what in Wicca tradition called the cone of energy, and then an invocation. But that is basically the work of the neophyte, the work that beneath the Tiferet solar consciousness level. All of that is the gym you need to have eventually to get rid of all of it and work on your inner alchemy and your inner body workings. So I don't even know if this will make for very engaging TV, because sex magic is not eyes wide shut. I mean, you can make it look like that, but in fact it's because again, it's not about the sex. It's about using sex and libido as Reich said, as an orgone energy incubator and accelerator in order to do something else. So we'll see.
It's interesting. I mean, and again, like, this is, the concepts that they're bringing out into kind of the public consciousness are remarkable, and the amount of people who will actually have heard the words, of initially the kind of the ritual for Pan, and now even heard the term like Star Sapphire,
Absolutely.
it's just remarkable.
I think I think this happened in the last 40 years. Happened twice only. One was in the late 70s with Robert Anton Wilson and David Shee's The Illuminatus trilogy.
Yeah.
And then in the 90s with The Invisibles by Grant Morrison.
Yeah.
I mean, both of them were doing for the culture of the time, through the media of the time,
Mm.
and it's funny because first was a book, then was a graphic novel, now it's a YouTube show.
Yeah.
Like they were doing the same level of, Grant Morrison used the term hyper sigil.
Yeah.
And I agree with it. Understanding what a sigil is, it's codified in magical intent. An hyper sigil is something that works on across different media to interact with itself. It really feels like that. It really, at the same time, it really feels that this is really breaching through the mainstream.
Yeah, it really
and
does.
That's fun. That's fantastic.
It really is. I certainly kind of, when I think about my own, like, start of my interest and kind of the curiosity and what have you was comics.
Yeah.
And it was to a lesser extent Alan Moore, and then The Invisibles. Really, The Invisibles was the one that really kind of turned the key in the lock. For me. And interestingly, today I was playing the Mysterious Universe podcast, where I first heard about Hellier on that podcast, and I was playing it today, and they were talking about the Invisibles comics, but the podcaster was just saying he'd never heard of it, and why had nobody ever mentioned this to him? The Invisibles, but again, like it is a huge thing in terms of that. It's those seeds that just gets thrown out into kind of public culture and to consciousness, and it comes to
from a magical standpoint, it could well be that this is a moment in human history where the communication with let's use the term ultraterrestrial, like a lot. But then again, that could be the Fae, the jinns, the aliens, whatever that's not human, pretty much.
Yeah.
This could be a moment where we and by we I say everybody who's interested in these ideas, we should maybe strive to, if we have to do a magical working, let's not make it for, I don't know, to get a promotion at work. Let's try and make this kind of connections. Let's try and make this kind of it does imply also that people need to maybe put a little bit of effort to get to the level where you can use this more advanced tech. Because again, try to do the Star Sapphire. If you don't really understand what it is, you won't get anywhere, and possibly you'll just read the text and say, "What is this?" It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Even if you understand and you try to unpack it the way we started doing it, of course, we didn't spill all the beans because we don't. But even that, it's something that you gotta dedicate yourself, even starting from zero. Maybe you need to do 6 months of serious, like, daily practice, like, which couple of days. Imagine it's the same as to say, okay, starting from zero and wanting to have like the classic beach ready body, like, which most people that work in fitness, they'll tell you cannot do it in 6 months, and it's true, you cannot do it in 6 months. But if you do it, if you go to the gym every day for 6 months and do a diet, and you will get some results. And that's something I think that everybody who's interested in these themes and in this current, start going to the gym, because it's definitely very, very interesting times.
It makes total sense. It makes total sense. You have to put in the time. That's just it.
Absolutely.
One thing I was thinking about as well, just in terms of talking about kind of like jinn, fairy, aliens. I mean, there's always been, a lot of people have picked up on the similarities and the synchronicities of people's experiences, etc. But I think when you were just talking about how 1970s you had Robert Anton Wilson, 90s we had the graphic novel, Morrison and Alan Moore. I love Promethea, by the way. Promethea is
Prometheus is fantastic.
Wonderful. And then there we have.
There are some bits with Promethea, sorry if I interrupt, that I think doesn't translate very well. You know, the idea that a young woman still needs to be initiated by the old pervy guy, which is Crowley, of course. I'm
Yeah.
like, maybe that's a bit surpassed.
I mean, he's another legend. But
Absolutely.
through looking at comics now, Hellier, it reminds me. It matches the motif of how whatever this is, it reflects back from the cultural prism it's viewed in, from the time frame it's viewed in, and then the method of delivery is reflecting of that. You know, and when we look at things like Robert Anton Wilson, we look at things like the graphic novel, like for Vertigo Publications, which were that, you know, they were that publisher who was publishing all this edgy stuff like Neil Gaiman as well and Sandman, all that stuff. And now you've got Hellier, who is on, you know, started on YouTube. So it's constantly picking up the pulse of where all the underground stuff is happening, and it's delivering this incredible vehicle, you know, generationally.
Absolutely, it is generational, yeah. And again, I think this is the right time to really do this kind of more contactee magic, if we want. Like, if any of us as an interest in receiving messages from the beyond, this is the time.
Yeah.
I think I'm already starting. I'm saying this, and I'm toying with an idea. If maybe we can do something next on like trying to, you know, techniques to do it, how to do it.
Yeah.
I was thinking, there's always possibilities there, but yeah, it's definitely very, very, very interesting time.
I'd certainly be up for that. You know, definitely give that a shot.
I think we gave an idea of what Hellier could be tonight. So it's I'm definitely I'm going to repeat myself, but I'm very, very curious to see if they do a season 3 and where to go with it.
Yes, it'd be incredible to see where it goes. So that might be a natural place to wrap up.
Okay, that's perfect.
Thank you again. It's been entertaining and educational as always.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Yeah, I know, it'd be an absolute pleasure, and then perhaps we'll get you back again to talk about some of those methodologies. Do you want to tell the people where's the best place to find you if they want to find out more about your work?
Sure. I have my website is marcovisconti.org, and there's all the relevant links to the Patreon page where I maybe write some articles, and there's some more direct way to engage, the Discord server, the classic, all the tropes that you have today. I keep doing my 1 or 2 hours workshops at Treadwell's bookshop in London. The next one is coming a couple of weeks, but it's sold out, so we're not going to talk about it. Another one is more that's not sold out yet. It's called Thoth Pharaoh Introduced, and it's going to be on the somewhere on the 18th of February.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken. If I'm mistaken, we can actually make a correction. No, I think that is. But in general, Treadwell's Books in London is the way where I collaborate with them to do my more public speaking engagement. Maybe something else is coming, but I'll let you know at some point, because things are brewing, as they say. Awesome.
And I'll leave a link to your YouTube channel below, so everyone can find out more
about that. There's a couple more videos coming up.
Awesome.
I realized that my working with iMovie is not. I really should move to Final Cut Pro or something like that, because trying to make animations on one program and then importing, it's crazy. So I'm in the process of realizing my technical limitations. But there are more videos are coming up.
Awesome.
So thank you very much. Thank you so much for
it. No, my pleasure, Marco. Have a lovely evening. Great to chat to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So there you have it. Ultraterrestrials, Hellier, the UFOnauts, all tying into Thelema and the Star Sapphire ritual. Thanks to Marco for really pulling that all together for us. There was some incredible insight, really. I can't wait to see what happens next, both with Marco and both with Hellier. So you see below in the video links, there's all Marco's contact details, his site, his Patreon, his channel, so be sure to follow him and find out more. Just looking back over this program while I was editing it, if the context is that this type of ritual and the energy it is through our engine of gnosis is a repellent to the things that are wanting to thwart us, stop our progress, what does that say about some of the religions that are based in themes of sexual shame? What does it say about them? Where are they from? Food for thought. That's all from me. Thanks for listening, and see you again soon. Remember to subscribe and hit like.